Ignition. Liftoff.
Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Ten, 9, 8.
Side booster ignition.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. It's Monday, February 21st, and you're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 as it awaits its 9:44 a.m. Eastern Time launch from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. My name is Jessie Anderson. I'm joining you today right next to SpaceX Mission Control from our headquarters in Hawthorne, California. I'm excited to be here to guide you through our 38th overall Starlink launch this morning. As a quick reminder, Starlink is a satellite internet constellation designed and manufactured by SpaceX. Starlink can provide high-speed, low-latency internet to people living in remote and rural locations around the globe. Our launch today will be taking 46 Starlink satellites into low Earth orbit, or also referred to as LEO. Similar to our previous Starlink launches this year, we will be launching to a southbound trajectory to take advantage of better recovery weather for our first stage during the winter months when the seas in the north can be a bit rough. Now, additionally, we won't have ground station coverage of payload deploy, which means we won't have live audio or visual confirmation of payload deployment in real time. Because of this, we will end our webcast just after second stage engine cutoff, or SECO-1, and confirm deployment on social once we regain coverage at T+1 hour and 19 minutes. And as you can see on your screen, we have some blue skies over there in Florida. Weather is looking pretty good, and the forecast is currently showing 90% favorable for liftoff today. And in addition to the weather, the range, vehicle, and satellites are all trending green for an on-time liftoff. If for some reason we don't lift off today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow, Tuesday, February 22nd, roughly 22 minutes earlier. For now, let's take a closer look at the rocket supporting today's mission. Now, what you see on your screen is a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. Depending on the device that you're using to watch the webcast today, the rocket on your screen may not look very substantial, but in fact, our two-stage rocket stands 70 meters tall, which makes it almost as tall as the Statue of Liberty, about 3/4 of the 93-meter monument in New York City, and about 20 meters taller than the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, France, which is about 50 meters tall. Starting from the bottom, we have the first stage, also referred to as the booster, which makes up over about 60% of the entire length of the Falcon 9 vehicle. The dark soot that you see around the lower part of the first stage are remnants from its previous launches. This particular booster has supported 10 previous missions, 5 previous Starlink missions, K-MILSAT, CRS-21, Transporter 2, Transporter 3, and NASA's Demo 2 mission. As the name Falcon 9 suggests, attached to the bottom of the first stage are 9 Merlin, or M1D engines. The 9 Merlin 1D engines accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere and into various orbits in space. While we've taken payloads to different orbits around our planet, today's payload is going into low Earth orbit, or LEO. Although there is no universal standard, LEO typically refers to orbits that are less than 2,000 to 2,400 kilometers in altitude. Depending on the velocity, at a 2,000-kilometer circular orbit, an object in LEO can make a little over 11 orbits a day, almost a sunrise and a sunset every hour. Now, in addition to our Starlink constellation, the International Space Station and Hubble Space Telescope are both currently traveling in low Earth orbit. Now, moving up on the vehicle, we have the interstage. As you can see on your screen, the black carbon fiber interstage is a distinct black color because it is unpainted TPS, or thermal protection system. The interstage is mated to the Falcon 9 tanks in Hawthorne, typically stays mated until launch. Now, although this composite structure is officially part of the first stage, it connects to the first and second stages, as well as houses pneumatic pushers that allow stage separation during flight. The Interstage also houses the Merlin vacuum engine, or MVAC engine, and though very similar to the Merlin 1D engines on the first stage, the MVAC engine has a larger nozzle that allows the second stage to perform better in the vacuum of space. It gives us a more efficient rocket engine that gets us better performance. Now, as you can see on your screen, the white portion of Falcon 9 above the black Interstage is the second stage. After the first and second stages separate about 2.5 minutes into flight, the second stage will ignite its MVAC engine to carry the payload to its desired orbit. Following separation from the second stage, we will be attempting to recover the first stage for an 11th time on our drone ship, a shortfall of Gravitas, which you can see a live view from right there with the blue skies in the background. If successful, it will mark the 100th recovery of a Falcon 9 first stage and our 107th if you include Falcon Heavy. Above the second stage is the payload fairing. That's what you're seeing on your screen. That nose cone structure at the very top of the rocket protects the Starlink satellites until we reach space. Around 3 minutes into flight, once we've exited Earth's atmosphere, we will jettison the fairing halves and attempt to retrieve them once they return back to Earth. Now, we want to jettison the fairing halves as soon as we can, as the weight of the fairing decreases second stage performance. The fairing halves protecting our Starlink satellites today are flying for the third time. Just as we reuse Falcon 9 first stage, we recover and reuse our fairing halves, and we will be attempting to recover these halves again using our recovery vessel, Doug, today. Now, you may be able to hear some of the live rocket sounds from the launch pad. The pops and hissing sounds that you hear are from the propellant loading that started at the T-35 minute mark. Now, our Falcon 9 vehicle uses two propellants, a refined form of kerosene called RP1, or rocket propellant 1, as the fuel, and LOX, or liquid oxygen, as an oxidizer. An oxidizer is a substance that a fuel requires in order to burn. The liquid oxygen is chilled well below its boiling point so that it has a much greater amount of mass per volume, basically so that we can load more of it into the rocket. In addition to these two propellants, we also use the chemical TTEB, or triethyl aluminum, and triethyl borane as the ignition source. Now, the combustion of RP1 and LOX make the rocket go or fly, but it's the TTEB that sets the match to the propellant mix. Now, it's just like a barbecue with charcoal and the oxygen air around it. Until you light a match to it, you won't have the flame to cook your food, or for our purposes, there's no liftoff. Now, we fill the liquid oxygen into the first and second stages to full as close to T0 as possible to minimize how long the liquid oxygen could start to warm up. Now, this is similar to fueling your combustion car. You put the handle in, turn it on, and when it's full, the pump shuts off.
Engine chill.
The latest weather forecast from Space Launch Delta 45 shows that we are 90% favorable for liftoff today. And as you can see on your screen, we've got some great blue skies over there in Florida. The vehicle, satellites, and range are all looking good for an on-time liftoff just a few minutes from now at 9:44 a.m. Eastern Time. If you've been following us, you may know that we've had an exciting few weeks here at SpaceX. Just last week, Elon gave an update at our Starbase location on the latest progress with Starship. Starship is a fully reusable transportation system designed to carry both crew and cargo to Earth orbit, the Moon, Mars, and beyond. It will be the world's most powerful launch vehicle ever developed, with the ability to carry in excess of 100 metric tons to Earth orbit. In advance of the update, the team stacked the Starship spacecraft on the Super Heavy rocket for the first time using Mechazilla and the chopsticks. Now, Mechazilla is the structure that you see there, and the chopsticks being the structure holding the Starship vehicle on your screen. If you weren't able to catch the Starship update for the first time around, never fear. The full presentation is now available for viewing on our YouTube channel. On top of that, Jared Isaacman, who you may remember was the commander of the Inspiration 4 mission, announced the Polaris program. This program will consist of up to 3 human spaceflight missions that will demonstrate new technologies, conduct extensive research, and ultimately culminate in the first flight of SpaceX's Starship with humans on board. The first mission, Polaris Dawn, is targeted to launch no earlier than the fourth quarter of 2022 from historic Launch Complex 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This mission will also attempt the world's first civilian spacewalk.
Thanks, pressing for Stromberg retract.
The Polaris Dawn crew will consist of Jared Isaacman, Scott Kidd Poteet, who was a veteran member of Jared's team, and 2 SpaceX employees, Sarah Gillis and Anna Menon. This will be a truly incredible series of missions, and we could not be more excited for our fellow SpaceXers going to space. To learn more about the Polaris program and the Polaris Dawn mission, head over to their website at polarisprogram.com. Now, the next major milestone you're about to see on your screen involves the transporter erector, which is the trusted structure. Trusted structure next to Falcon 9, and if you look closely below the fairing, you can see the clamp arms opening up. That's in preparation to clear the way for the TE to start to retract.
Retract in progress.
And there's that call out that the strong back or the TE is retracting away from the vehicle. Then at T0, it will clear the way even more as the vehicle lifts off. Now, TE is a structure that provides liquids, gases, and electrical connections to the second stage, as well as air conditioning to the payload fairing. And at this point, the first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. And you can see some white clouds on your screen. That is the chilled gas inside of the vehicle above the LOX tank liquid surface that we vent overboard to maintain pressure in the tank as needed. Now, when that gas exits the vehicle into the warmer Florida air, the humid air condenses into clouds. Similar.
Stage 1 lock flow complete.
Pretty similar to when you have a cold glass of water and condensation forms around it. And we also just heard the call out for the first stage LOX loading complete. Next up will be second stage at about T-2 minutes. At T-1.5 minutes, we then vent the pressure out of the LOX line on the transporter erector. So again, that excess chilled gas gets ejected out into the Florida air. So you will see more of those white clouds forming around that time. We aim to finish prop loading on the first stage.
Stage 2, LOX throttle back.
We aim to finish prop loading on the first stage by T-3 minutes and second stage at T-2 minutes to minimize how long the liquid oxygen could start to warm up. Then at a minute before liftoff, you'll hear that Falcon 9 is in startup. That means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. And just inside T-2 seconds, the Merlin 1D engines will light up, and then we're set for T0. Just waiting for that call out for LOX load on second stage.
Stage 2 LOX load complete.
There it is. Now both first and second stage are fully loaded with propellant. The Starlink payload continues to be healthy, and the Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the vehicle. Weather is still looking amazing, and you can see the blue skies there on your screen. And the range is green for launch. Now, as I mentioned, you can see the white clouds coming from the transporter erector. Again, that is the liquid oxygen that we are venting out, clearing those lines on the transporter erector.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And there's that call out that the Falcon 9's computers have taken over the launch countdown, just waiting for the final go from the launch director.
LD, go for launch.
And all systems are now go for launch. So let's listen into the terminal count and watch as Falcon 9 takes our 46 Starlink satellites to space.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15. minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. Lift off. Starlink 4-8.
Vehicle switching downrange.
M1D chamber pressure is nominal.
Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station,
Power and telemetry nominal.
carrying our stack of 46 Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit. Now, moments ago, we throttled down the engines, reducing the speed by decreasing the flow of fuel to the engine. That's in preparation for max Q, or maximum aerodynamic
Vehicle
pressure.
supersonic.
And we are coming up on max Q in a few seconds here.
Max Q.
And there's that call out that we've passed through max Q. Now, we do have 4 events coming up in quick succession. The first will be main engine cutoff, or MECO, stage separation, second engine start 1, or SES 1, and then fairing deploy. So main engine cutoff is where all 9 of the M1D engines shut down to slow the vehicle down in preparation for the next event, which is stage separation. And that is where the first stage separates from the second stage. Right after stage separation, the first stage will start making its way back to Earth for landing. And while we are able to land the first stage, both on land and at sea on our drone ship, today we will attempt to recover the first stage on today's mission on our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas. Now, while this is happening, stage 2 will continue on its journey with the third event, which is SES 1, or second stage engine start 1. That's where the MVAC engine lights up and propels the second stage along with the Starlink satellites to orbit. And just a few seconds after that, we'll have fairing deploy.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
Bearing separation confirmed.
And great views on your screen. We just saw MECO, stage separation, SES-1, and fairing deploy. On your left-hand screen is the first stage, right-hand screen is a view of the MVAC engine. And those visual confirmations mean that we have successfully deployed our fairing halves. SpaceX has reflown Falcon fairing halves since 2019, and the fairing halves flying on today's mission are flying for the third time. Improvements on the fairing and our overall refurbishment process has decreased the impact of water landings and led to an overall fairing recovery rate of 93% over the last 14 missions. Of 109 fairing missions, 73 have been recovered and 32 missions have flown recovered fairing halves. And again, we will be attempting to recover the halves again today using our recovery vessel, Doug. And some great views here as stage 2 heads towards its targeted drop-off orbit. Stage 1 will complete 2 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. The first is the entry burn, where 3 of those 9 M1D engines will reignite. That helps to slow the stage down as it re-enters back into the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere.
Acquisition signal, Bermuda.
Then the second burn for the first stage is the landing burn. This is a single engine burn, the center E9 engine, and that brings the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to land on the drone ship. Stage 2 is still looking good on a nominal trajectory. On your left-hand screen, you can see those grid fins on the first stage, helping to guide the vehicle back to its landing zone. Now, if you're just now joining us, we've had a successful liftoff of Falcon 9 from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Slick 40 today. Right now, you're looking at a live view of Falcon 9's second stage on the right-hand screen. And that was just a call out for a nominal trajectory on second stage. Stage 1 is currently making its way back to our drone ship, a short fall of gravitas. And today is the 38th launch of Starlink satellites overall, the 7th mission of 2022, 4th Starlink mission of 2022, and the 145th total overall SpaceX launch. We're just about a minute away from the entry burn start on the first stage. And the Merlin engines on the first stage are optimized for sea level. These achieve 190,000 pounds of thrust during ascent. That's when we lift off or fly towards space, and descent, and that's when we come back down to Earth. Now, the MVAC engine is optimized for 220,500 pounds of thrust in vacuum, and that's what you're seeing on your right-hand screen. You can see those grid fins on your left-hand screen on the first stage. Falcon 9 is equipped with 4 hypersonic grid fins positioned near the top of the first stage. And stage 1 is using nothing but the grid fins for steering as it makes its way, as it makes its return back to Earth. That is until we light the center E9 engine. Then we can gimbal the engine to help guide the stage as it lands. Again, we're coming up on that entry burn here in a few seconds.
Stage 1 FTS has saved.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
We heard the call out, and you can visually see that
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
You can visually see that the entry burn has begun on the first stage.
Stage 2 continues to follow nominal trajectory.
Great call outs on stage 2. Entry burn.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
There it is. It's just a 20-second burn, and as you can see and heard, the entry burn has concluded. Next up will be the landing burn, and that'll be the final burn for the first stage as it returns back to Earth. Now, for those of you who follow along, you'll know that the soot on the rocket indicates it's been flown before. The rocket-grade kerosene, RP1, used to fuel a Falcon 9 is carbon-based, so when it burns, it generates that soot. And as you just saw with the entry burn, the Falcon 9 vehicle flies through its plume, and that's how it generates the soot onto the vehicle. We are just about 20 seconds or so away from that landing burn beginning on the first stage, and as we touch down, we will also have SECO 1, or second stage engine cutoff 1, on second stage. So we should hear some call-outs for that as we are landing on a shortfall of gravitas today.
Stage 1 landing burn. Stage 1 leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
SECO 1.
And great news, we heard that Falcon 9 has landed, touchdown on a shortfall of gravitas. We also heard, there it is on your screen, incredible view of the vehicle standing
Nominal
tall.
orbit insertion.
And we also had SECO 1 as well as that call out right there. Let us know that we had a good orbit. Great news overall. We are now awaiting the deployment of our 46 Starlink satellites, which is scheduled to occur about an hour from now. Now, as I mentioned before, we won't have live audio or visual confirmation of payload deployment due to lack of ground station coverage. We will regain signal with our ground station at T plus 1 hour and 19 minutes. So for those of you who are interested, we will keep the audio-only countdown nets up on our YouTube channel, and we'll confirm successful payload deployment on our social channels. So that will bring our webcast to a close today.
Also signal Cape and Bermuda.
Our team at SpaceX would like to send a big thank you to the Range and Federal Aviation Administration for supporting our mission. Of course, thank you to all of you, our viewers, and all of our Starlink customers using our service at this time. And if you're interested in signing up for Starlink service, head over to starlink.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.